Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. So in this video, I have the DXY chart open, and I received a question regarding the DXY versus Bitcoin. However, this could be applied to crypto at large. So the question comes from Paseos Contim 9087. I apologize if I got the name wrong. He asked, if the DXY is moving up, does that mean Bitcoin is going to move down since they're inversely correlated? So this applies to not only Bitcoin, it applies to the entire crypto market. So I have the DXY on a week candle, so it's a zoomed out picture of the DXY. So as you can see, the DXY has just been plowing up. I mean, it's just green candle after green candle. If it's going to continue to do this, and those of you who know my DXY analysis, you know that I am calling for a further rise in the DXY. And the reason why I'm calling for that is because I believe the DXY is repeating a structure. This structure here is being repeated on this part of the chart. Now, I took this structure and adjusted it for the timing, height, and depth over on this side of the chart, and as you can see, it is a very close map of what the DXY has been doing and what the DXY will likely do. So it is not complete yet. As you can see, there is this move up that it is currently in the process of completing. Now, I don't know the height of this. This is an educated guess at best. It could go higher than this. It could go lower than this. It is my belief, though, that this peak right here may potentially make it around this height or higher. However, these ones I think could potentially be higher. After this, it does a precipitous fall. So here we are zoomed in, and as you can see, price is just marching up to a peak here. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to jump over to the Bitcoin chart and compare the DXY to Bitcoin. So here we have Bitcoin at the top over here, and down here is the DXY. So as you can see, for instance, right here, as Bitcoin peaked out and began its decline, the DXY started moving up. Let's move this line right here. You can see how as the DXY moves up, Bitcoin moves down. So this underscores the idea that they are inversely correlated. And I believe that is a true statement. Let's look at Bitcoin real quick. I'm going to jump over to the Bitcoin chart, and I'm going to show you what I believe is taking place on the Bitcoin chart. So this is the very first structure that ever took place on the Bitcoin chart. I call this the Genesis fractal or structure, and that is because it is the first one, and as you can see, it is still relevant today. I've done videos on this. So here is the move up, here's the peak, here's the decline. Now this has been matched to this size of chart. It played out on a very small scale. So this is what I believe we are currently working out right now. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's kind of choppy trading. There's also another fractal that I've used many times, and it is the recovery. This is the recovery from the 2013 Bitcoin decline. So again, they're very similar structures. This one moves up a little further after this one. Now that we see what I am projecting for the future of Bitcoin, and let's just quickly go over that real quick. So it's choppy trading. At some point, it's going to move up faster. Now, on this Genesis fractal, it happens here. Over here, it happened right here on the 2013 recovery. Now that we have these two fractals here, let's jump over to that chart where we compare them. And what I'd like to do is I would like to go back to this 2013 decline and recovery, and we can examine that because out of all the structures, I believe that that fractal is very relevant. more so than many of the other ones that have played out. So let's jump over there real quick. Okay, so here is that 2013 decline. Actually, it starts in 2013, but it goes all the way to 2015 before it really begins its move back up. So a lot of this takes place in 2016, 2017. So it is this fractal that I am saying that is very relevant to today's structure. Now, let's look at the DXY. So over here, price moves up quite steeply, which is also at the same time when Bitcoin is having its decline. As we see right here, as Bitcoin declines, the DXY moves up aggressively. So again, that underscores the inverse correlation between Bitcoin and the DXY. But we're not talking about right here. We're actually focusing on over here. So what exactly happens over here? Well, it's not quite as black and white, that inverse correlation. So once the DXY gets to this level, it eventually comes to a peak here. And it is this structure right here, this marching towards its peak, just like the DXY is doing today, marching towards its peak. What happens? Well, it becomes murky. At a certain point, they start moving together in the same direction. So as the DXY does its run up to its peak, they begin to move in the same direction as we see over here. Now, all along this part where they're both moving up at the same time, Bitcoin is moving up, but it doesn't do this. So they're both moving in the same direction, but eventually the DXY comes to its peak. After this peak is formed over here, it is then that Bitcoin really just takes off. It just like rips higher as the DXY is moving down. So let's jump over to today's DXY. So I believe as the DXY is moving up to this peak right here, Bitcoin will stay in this choppy type trading. It is moving higher, but it's not this. Once the DXY forms this peak, Bitcoin is going to take off. This is what we saw over here as the DXY begins to turn over. It's really right here where the story changes. So the peak is formed here. Once that peak is formed and the decline begins to set in for the DXY, that's where Bitcoin just goes crazy. So if the DXY continues at this timing, now I'm not saying it will, it could change at any moment, but we could potentially see this, and there's the way this peak may look may not be exactly like this. It may have three parts to it. It may not. If we look over here at this peak, of course, this is on a week candle. If we zoom in on a day, we see the first wave, second wave, and third wave. Well, we see that here on the chart, 1, 2, and then 3. So it could play out similar to it. So over here, we could see something similar, or it could do something unique. Whatever it will do, it's going to be its own original thing. It could resemble this. We'll have to see. However, this, if it continues at this pace, this potentially peaks in October all the way. Well, this one is in January. Moving over to Bitcoin, this chop could potentially last all the way to January, and then January it really starts taking off. It could also go longer. For those of you who follow my analysis on the Dow, you know that I believe it is moving up to a peak. After this peak, it is a potentially major fall. So it potentially does one peak here, end of December, and then through January, it moves up to do its final blow-off top in early February, if this, or the end of January, this begins to decline. So, of course, this timing could change, but everything as of now, traveling at this speed, seems to be telling a similar story. So, we could potentially see the DXY march up to this peak, its new peak. In the meantime, the price on Bitcoin will do something similar to this or this, which is the same fractal here. Once it peaks, this is what will happen. Meanwhile, the Dow Jones is also continuing to march up higher, which is good for crypto. So let's jump over to the total chart because this shows all of crypto. Now, this is also back in that same time frame. The chart starts in 2014, but that decline that was taking place on the Bitcoin chart, this one right here, is this right here. So we see a similar story where they're both going the same direction for the most part. There's some inverse correlation taking place, but then at a certain point, they both start moving up. Once the DXY comes to its peak, that's when it really takes off. So in conclusion, we see the same setup potentially taking place today. Bitcoin is doing a similar thing. DXY is doing a similar thing. This is backed up by the fractal that the Dow Jones has been following. So, folks, I hope this sheds light on what the DXY will be doing. Now, these two peaks over here, this is something that likely will take place after the crypto bull run. We'll have to see how it plays out. This could be during the decline of the stock market, the Dow Jones. Everyone's running into cash. Everyone's afraid. And so this, I don't know the timing of this, but this has potential to take time to play out. So this first peak is what we should be concerned about for the here and now. If you enjoyed this analysis, this is original analysis, this whole system that I do using past structures to predict the future, it's original in the sense that I have a macro chart structure that I follow. I methodically use not just any fractal, it's a whole system of which fractal you should be using to predict the future. Now, this system has its drawbacks. I can't really predict timing very well. All this timing that I just presented to you is theoretical. It could play out different. It could take longer to play out. It could take a shorter amount of time to play out. All those are yet to be seen. But where this really does shine is you can project future movements and have a good understanding or a good idea of what those future movements may look like. If you found this interesting, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. If you have not hit that subscribe button, I recommend hitting that subscribe button. I will continue to follow the macro chart structures on all of these charts and the smaller time frames as well. So as of now, I believe history is repeating itself, and that the idea that the DXY is inverse of crypto and Bitcoin, while it is true, for the most part, it is nuanced. And that nuance is important, as I just pointed out to you. So glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.